Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips a balance in favor of fair use. Okay, you guys, this one is from Cora. Why is the Scientology policy on children criticized? That should be policies. This was 7 years ago, posted by Bill Hall. The Scientology policy, it should be policies on children, is criticized because it robs children of their childhood. I guess Rinder never got the memo, did he? According to Scientology scripture, can you imagine this? Policies, it's not scripture. Children are not naive young innocents who are experiencing the world for the first time, Scientology parents. Instead, children are ancient spirits who have lived countless lifetimes and should be regarded as treated as adults. Scientology parents, government officials, LAPD, isn't that great? Children should be treated as adults. It's not a recipe for pedophilia, is it? For instance, the scriptures teach that a 7-year-old girl, not scriptures, come on, let's be real here, you guys. The fact that anybody could even call it a scripture makes me question your mental capacities, to be honest. That's the policy LRH says. That a 7-year-old girl, a child, shouldn't think anything is wrong about receiving a passionate kiss from a man. How about that, LAPD? Isn't that great? I guess all these, 60, 70 years of Scientology, none of the LAPD officers figured out that LRH thought kissing a 7-year-old girl passionately on the lips was okay. But the money's good. For instance, the scriptures teach that a 7-year-old girl, okay, I already read that. That's LRH, convicted felon, pervert that he is. If she does, she's reacting irrationally and must be inflicted with some kind of mental issue concerning men or kissing. No, let's go deeper here. He left out a bunch. LRH said that meant that the 7-year-old girl that does not want to be kissed passionately by a grown-ass man, that she is forgetting her past lives and all of her sexual experiences. Yeah, somehow he didn't include that one. But, at least he's speaking out against it. So, sorry, Bill Hall, I just get a little fired up. There are other reasons for criticism, but what more needs saying? Treating children as adults in small packaging is not treating children properly. Yeah, Scientology parents. Yeah, LAPD. Yes, government officials. Wakey, MF, wakey. 1. Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health. 1987 edition, page 445. So apparently that moron was still putting out bogus, ridiculous policies even after his death. I believe he died in 86. That's pretty significant right there. 86 is the death number. Let me see if there's anything else that someone responded. Because I'm sure there's a lot of pervert Scientologists that will defend this. Okay, that's not too significant to me. Oh, listen to this idiocracy. Please advise what you mean by the policy on children. Oh, you guys, that response to me sounds like a pedo protector. I don't want to read it because I'm just gonna go off. Okay, you got to get the spam in here. Now, Stacy Brooks, I am familiar with. And so far, I've liked what Doug Parent says. I like that he even called himself a parent. Okay, I'm going to read it. I don't know what I'm getting ready to read here. Forgive the length, but I feel the entire article bears repeating here. Written by Stacy Brooks. I believe Stacy Brooks was friends with Tori. Unfortunately, she had passed away. She seemed like she was doing good work. Scientology's Rejection of the Family by Stacy Brooks. August 13th, 2000. I hope it stays on topic. Recently at the Lisa McPherson Trust, we helped a woman get out of Scientology. See, people can always leave Scientology. She took her child with her. A child who at a very young age had already been recruited into the Sea Org. How about that, you guys? But there's no child abuse in Scientology, right? We need to start getting names of the recruiters that are out there right now attempting to recruit children, which is illegal, by the way. The woman's mother has been in the Sea Org for a long time. She came to the woman's house extremely upset that the woman had left, but particularly upset that she had taken her child out of the Sea Org. Because, children are possessions. The mother brought a sheet of paper with the tape excerpt below. She frantically told the woman that she was throwing away her future. This is some good mind control. And urged her not to let considerations about her family, because, there's no family anymore when you're a Scientologist, stand in the way of her freedom and that of her child. Can you imagine how mind controlled they are that they actually think they're free? Unreal. It's the inversion. That's the satanic inversions that they're doing. The woman told her mother that she didn't want to be in Scientology anymore. Imagine that, LAPD. Imagine that, LAPD. The children don't want to be in Scientology. Child Protective Services, government officials, FBI, alleged Department of Justice. Then the woman's mother pulled the child aside. Oh, here we go. In all seriousness, urged the child to file for legal emancipation. You guys know Scientologists have done this before. And they wonder why people can't stand them. Emancipation from the parents so that the child, see, they're trying to get her mind, who is underage, could go back into the Sea Org. That's why we can't feel sorry for all of these elderly people. I would have to know them individually. I can't judge every person. The child was very upset, of course she was. But according to the woman, is beginning to enjoy interacting with other family members and friends. Of course she is. I asked the woman to fax me a copy of the tape excerpt her mother had given her. When I read the excerpt, it sickened me. I have never seen this excerpt before. I have never seen a quote from LRH in which he so clearly urges his followers, fanatics, to turn away from their families. This is the hive mind. This is the inversion. This is all Illuminati controlled. Wakey, MF Wakey. Here's the text of the excerpt. The GE is a family man. The GE, what does GE stand for, you guys? The GE is a family man. The GE is lost without a family. It's very strange, but Homo sapien is a family unit. The GE is built on that basis. You know, the moron trying to act like he's some kind of expert on stuff. It's fascinating. It's not important to know it, but a lot of your urges toward families and so forth are not Thetan urges at all. They're the GE. You know, take more drugs, Hubbard. The GE can't survive at all without a family unit. He's just as dead as a mackerel if he is in a family unit. Whereas your Thetan is just dead as a mackerel if he gets too mixed up in family units. Can you imagine these people listening to this shit? It's unreal. You know, he was popping pills and all kinds of stuff up there. You can't talk to GEs. They're kind of psycho. Yeah, you would know, Hubbard. And by the way, you can fall into this dreadful trap with a GE. You see, he uses the mest universe with which to build. He's gotten very, very bad off, and he has to use mest. Material, ether, space, and time materials all the time. So you get this situation here. I mean, you know, ravings of a lunatic. You get this situation here with the GE. I don't know what GE is. And your GE is busy. Build. Like produce, you guys. Hive mind be hiving. And of course, he's got to have a family to build with. You know, production, everyone. Production. Build. You know, repetition is mind control, right? This is too much. You get this terrific family thirst, because that's natural, right, mother effer? And you get your GE surviving best and being loused up the most because of interfamily relationships. Not like Hubbard would know anything about that, would he? And your Thetan, by the way, can much more easily go into a group. Families are not good groups. They're bad groups. I guess what were those PR stills of you then, Hubbard, with your fake family love? Apparently, LAPD doesn't know how to do research like this. They don't know how to let their fingers walk on the Google search bar. LRH from the taped lecture Flows Pattern of Interaction, 10 December 1952. From a moronic, imbecile, convicted felon, fraud, who believes kissing a 7-year-old girl passionately is okay, which is against the law, by the way. But, you know, laws. Keep telling you guys, come have your parades in my town. For you to understand why this quote affected me so strongly, I have to translate. Oh, here we go. LRH is Scientology speak into plain language. You know, ravings of a lunatic. First of all, the GE is a genetic entity. That's what it is. I mean, I guess like your biological genetic body. The Scientology Tech Dictionary defines it this way. Oh, this should be great. By the way, Cult 101 is completely changed the language. They all do it. LRH, I believe he had help. And I'll go to my grave saying that one. Genetic Entity 1. Oh, this should be great. That beingness not dissimilar to the Thetan. Thetan is kind of like what we might call spirit, or your, you know, Thetan is like a spirit. which has carried forward and developed the body from its earliest moments along the evolutionary line on Earth, and which through experience, necessity, and natural selection, he would be a natural selection dude, has employed the counter efforts of the environment to fashion an organism of the type best fitted for survival, limited only by the abilities of the genetic entity. The goal of the genetic entity, I mean, talk about like debasing someone completely, right? Call them a genetic entity, is survival on a much grosser plane of materiality. He didn't even know what he was talking about. SCN 8 through 80008, page 8. Huh, loving that 8, aren't we? 2, formerly referred to as the somatic mind. He probably didn't even know what this stuff meant, to be honest. He's just rambling while he's popping his drugs and taking all kinds of pharmaceuticals. It has no real personality. It is not the I of the body. What the fuck does that mean? Not the I of the body. This is the mind of an animal, a dog or cat or a cow. And then he cited that, someone cited it. 3, that entity which is carrying along through time, that is making the body through the time stream, through the action of SEX and so forth. Yeah, because you know they want to get those children doing the SEX as soon as possible, right? It's disgusting. They have children reading stuff like this, which is child sexual abuse, by the way. For those who didn't know, now you know. Now let me tell you how I understood it when I was in Scientology. I want to try to give you a window into how Scientologists think. Please don't. I'm just kidding. I want you to understand how it could possibly be that Scientologists turn against their own families and see it as an ethical thing to do. I'll never see it that way, just so everyone knows. How Scientologists can see their feelings of love and loyalty to their families as something psychotic. Oh, that's a satanic inversion. That's all it is. It's not complicated. Something they need to do away with in order to be good Scientologists. To be good mind-controlled slave, basically. Mind-controlled slave, Scientologist, same thing. This is how Scientologists are taught to think. This is tough. The genetic entity is the part of the person that is still tied to the universe of matter, energy, space, and time. I know as the best universe in Scientology. Imagine this idiot trying to push physics. He flunked that, of course. Known as the mass universe in Scientology that we will leave behind when we are able to become stably exterior with full perceptics. You need to break that down because that's a lot of fancy words. This is the real goal of a Scientologist. To be free of the messed universe, to be able to discard the body and be completely free of the limitations of messed. When enough I guess Hubbard didn't attain that since he never came back, right? When enough Scientologists reach the goal, a goal which no one to my knowledge has yet attained, of course not. And planet Earth has been cleared. Yeah, right. It's never going to be cleared. They will be able to travel at will anywhere in the galaxy to clear other planets. Because, they still need to be tied to Hubbard's ideology, right? Which they can do all of this without Scientology, by the way. Just go look at near-death experiences. Nobody having near-death experiences had to be Scientologist. Or astral traveling. Wakey, wakey. They will be free of their bodies. Yeah, apparently everyone having near-death experiences can do this too. And meditation, and there's other ways to get there. They will just pick up new bodies or on whatever planet they go to. It's all reincarnation. This is kind of very similar. They might be meat bodies like the ones on Earth, or they might be doll bodies. Doll bodies is creepy, in my opinion. It's real creepy stuff. or any of a variety of other kinds of bodies Satan's used throughout the messed universe. But the point is that they will be able to mock them up at will. What do they mean by mock up? Because they will be totally at cause over messed. You see how they use like 15 words to describe something very simple? This is my interpretation. It just means that that's their goal, is to be able to be free of the body and be able to go on and live on another planet and continue to clear the earth, because that's the Scientology goal, which is completely fake, by the way. You don't have to be a Scientologist to do any of that, in my opinion. I mean, I totally believe in reincarnation. I didn't used to. Man, I didn't know my head was going to get a headache here. Obviously, for someone who has, we sure kind of change this around from the children. Obviously, for someone who has it in their head that they are trying to leave the messed universe behind, the genetic entity, that's the body, and everything connected to it, the body, is something from which one would have to distance himself. In fact, there is an insulting slang term in Scientology for someone who is too much into their body or too much into their family, meaning their husband or wife, their children, their parents, brothers, sisters, grandparents. A person like that is considered to be stuck in the GE. That's a very bad thing in Scientology, very out ethics. Psychotic, in fact. We'll talk about being good at inverting. They made sure that everyone in Scientology knew families were the enemy. And meanwhile, all this pedophilia going on, being covered up, not being reported, or if it is reported, LAPD, you guys are sitting on it, which is illegal too, by the way. Dereliction of duty, unlawful behaviors. Jesus, Lord, this thing's long. When LRH said in the tape excerpt that your urges toward family are not Thetan urges at all, they're the GE. What he was saying was that anyone who puts any importance on the family is going in a direction toward messed, not theta. That is out ethics thing to do. Isn't that great, you guys? So don't take care of your children. Don't be protective of your children. Don't love your children. Put your children out ethics. Put everything above your family. It is putting counter intention on the forward motion of Scientology. It is holding back the entire group. And none of them are loyal to each other. I mean, hold on a minute, you guys. You guys, this is really long. I'm debating if I want to read all of it. At the LMT, we get these heartbreaking calls. Oh, wait, hold on. Wow. I don't know, you guys. Okay. I'm just going to read until I don't feel like reading anymore, and then you guys can go and read the rest. Maybe I'll finish it. I don't know. It's really long. When he said that Homo sapien is a family unit, he was denigrating Homo sapiens for calling about family. He was saying that Homo sapiens, the evolutionary phase of the human race before Scientology came along, is a terribly primitive creature. Homo novus, the Superman that Scientology has made possible. Can you imagine? All malnourished, walking around with, and I'm not trying to be mean to the Scientologists, it's kind of sad. If you guys see how many of the men have that, like, hunchback, that's from malnutrition. So you can't be a Superman if you're completely malnourished. That Scientology has made possible is the next evolutionary step. The superior being. By the way, Hubbard was a racist as well. Homo novus isn't interested in families. Homo novus is at cause over matter energy, space and time. Who need a family when you can exteriorize at will. Exteriorize, from what I understand, is just means leave the body. That would be astral traveling. That could be deep meditation. That could be near-death experience. It could be at death. Who needs to procreate? Who would want to hold on to any connection to the messed universe once you realize that those connections are doing nothing but holding back the forward progress of the entire human race? Imagine, go look at LRH. Especially as he got older. Hair all jacked up. Couldn't even get a haircut. Didn't cut his nails. His teeth. I mean, he had enough money. He could have gone and gotten his teeth taken care of. He didn't do that. Which, I mean, I can appreciate that he wasn't a materialistic person, from what I understand. It's the only thing I can appreciate about him. But imagine someone looking crazy like that. They're following him. It's just unbelievable. It is Homo sapiens, Homo sape, as he says in the tape, who needs a family. It is Homo sapien who still has a connection to the GE. You guys obviously know I'm not too far away from a really big hospital. But you see how LRH lets you know what a degraded being, what a Homo sapien you are if you care about your family. Listen to what he says. The GE is as dead as a mackerel without the family unit, but the thetan, this is all crazy talk, that Homo novus, which is only possible to attain through Scientology, of course, and you got to pay a lot of money for it, of course, is as dead as a mackerel if he gets mixed up with a family unit. So, yeah, it's probably why, allegedly, there's very many accounts, LRH, that you were sexually abusing your daughter Diana. It's on public record. This is not something, I'm not defaming anyone. I'm not alleging anything that has not been alleged. There are numerous accounts online from people that audited LRH in which he admitted to hurting his daughter. I guess that he was following through on that whole idea. Isn't that great? Go look it up. The GE is as dead as a mackerel without the family unit, but the thetan, that's Homo novus, which is only possible to attain through Scientology, is as dead as a mackerel if he gets mixed up with a family unit. I mean, how many times do you have to say that? Dead as a mackerel. So you are actually putting up a roadblock to mankind's forward progress by clinging to old primitive notions such as family. Moron. Does that kind of remind you of what's going on in today's society? Wakey, MF Wakey, everyone. Go check out Brave New World. The message here is clear, which, by the way, according to, what is it called? I'm trying to think of the plan that they're implementing is going to be finished by 2030. I can't think of the name of it right now. Anyone who knows, knows. All these new titles for children and people that hurt children, it's all part of their agenda. They're sick. It's depopulation. If you're an ethical Scientologist, you are not going to hold on to messed relationships like your family. You're going to be much more interested in theta relationships like your fellow Scientologists, which, by the way, a lot of them are not loyal. It's just bred into them. I'm sorry. It's the truth. People who have risen above mess-oriented relationships and are interested only in the theta-based relationships. Yeah, and then the minute that they leave Scientology, they're a suppressive person. Those that will further Scientology's aims, their pocketbook, basically. An ethical Scientologist only wants to associate with others who are also striving for the enlightened state of Homo novus. All these phrases and fake terms, it's too much, man. Okay, this is Stacy talking. I no longer adhere to this belief system, thank God. I am no longer a Scientologist, thank God, but for 15 years I distanced myself from my family and the friends I had before I got into Scientology for this very reason. I did not want to contaminate myself by associating with unenlightened people, like suppressives. In Scientology, this is called contagion of aberration. You don't want to be around people who are stuck in mess because it might rub off on you. You don't want to do anything that will slow you down from becoming an enlightened theta clear. Ay, ay, ay. For those of you who are familiar with the term suppressive person, well, I must be psychic, or SP and potential trouble source, like Kelly Copter was labeled a PTS at 6 years old. Isn't that wonderful? It is upon this fundamental concept that these terms are based. An SP is someone who is so stuck in the messed universe, so solid that they can't bear to have anyone around them who is moving in the direction of theta, the opposite of solid. You guys see why everyone's eyes look crazy now? Sorry, I don't mean to be mean to you guys, but it's not your fault. If you come out of the cult, your eyes will start to look more normal and you get more rest. Which is disassociation, by the way. A PTS is someone who has allowed themselves to become vulnerable to an SP's influence and is therefore getting more solid, less theta. You see why everybody runs from protesters or people speaking out against Scientology? I mean, Jesus. This is why Scientologists distance themselves from the rest of society. And mind you, I think Stacey Brooks hadn't been out that long, so you can kind of tell. It is why the Sea Org members in Clearwater refused to make eye contact with the citizens of Clearwater when they walked down the street. It is why the Scientologist son of a dear friend of mine has refused to speak to his mother for 30 years. Well, honestly, I just think a lot of these people are going to get what they deserve in the end. I'm sorry. A lot of you ex-Scientologists, that might upset you, but karma. Recently, a woman contacted the MLT, that's the Lisa McPherson Trust, for help. She had been happily married for nearly 20 years. She and her husband had 2 beautiful teenage children. They had a beautiful house and a wonderful life. She considered herself the luckiest woman on earth because she had such a happy family. Was she allowing her children to be audited? Then her husband got into Scientology. Oh, boy. By the time she spoke to me, her husband had gotten them nearly $100,000 in debt. Of course he did. Because Scientology, all it's about is money. He wanted a divorce because she didn't want to be a Scientologist. See, that should be somebody's red flag. I just don't get it, you guys. Maybe it's because the mind control is so, pervasive, just tiny little increments. But forcing you to divorce your spouse that you've loved allegedly loved all those years, that should be your red flag. He refused to speak to either of his children because they didn't want to be Scientologists. Well, he's just an asshole then. Let's just be honest. You do that, you're an asshole. When she begged him to speak to someone with a different point of view about Scientology, he told her he would disappear and never contact her again if she ever tried to put him in contact with someone critical of Scientology. Well, I hope he gets what he deserves, to be honest. I really do. Some of these folks I don't have compassion for. He did that to his wife and children. She bore his children for him. She and her children are heartbroken over the loss of a man who was once a wonderful husband and father. He, on the other hand, is convinced that she is an SP, that she is trying to keep him from moving toward the enlightened state of theta clear. Have you guys ever seen any enlightened Scientologists? Have you ever met any of them? Oh, wait, maybe some of them were the ones who took themselves out, right? I guess suicide equals enlightenment, huh? Another woman contacted the MLT recently about her sister, who has just joined the Sea Org. I wonder how old she was. Probably a child. Oh, maybe not. The sister has 2 children. Now that she is in Sea Org, the children have been sent to the Sea Org Children's Ranch. Listen to this, guys. This is a problem, LAPD. Now that she is in the Sea Org, listen, this is a mother who gave up her children, you guys. The children have been sent. You see how they distance themselves in the words? The children have been sent to the Sea Org. No, she allowed that to happen. I know it was coercion, but come on, you guys. Oh, my God. Now that she is in Sea Org, the children have been sent to the Sea Org Children's Ranch, you know, where all the children got abused. Sky Telepo. They have been sneaking phone calls to their aunt. Yeah, abuse, you guys. Tearfully asking their aunt why their mother doesn't love them anymore. Yeah, Ma, why don't you love them anymore? The mother, meanwhile, fully believes that her children are a distraction from her production. Could she be one of these elderly people walking around? And it is necessary to separate from them so that she can realize her full potential. I mean, listen to that, you guys. She just gave up her kids like nothing. She also believes that if the children are ethical, they too will benefit from severing their ties with her. Since their relationship is based on nothing more than the fact that she is their biological mother, something which is meaningless in the new society of Homo Novus. It's a brave new world, you guys. See, how long is this? I didn't know I was going to get so deep into this. It's very interesting. It's hard for me to have compassion. I know that the mind control is heavy. I get it. But you're just throwing your children to the wolves. To the wolves. At the LMT, we get these heartbreaking calls nearly every day. Yeah, you know, Miscavige and the prestigious executives made sure that they ruined Lisa McPherson Trust. Today I see the genetic entity, like the body, Homo Novus, and the whole idea of isolating oneself from the so-called mess universe, you know, being able to move past your body, and concentrating on becoming theta clear as a delusion of grandeur. That sounds like Hubbard. Which originated in the unbalanced mind of the L. Ron Hubbard. Hubbard was unable to have healthy relationships. It's because he's a narcissist. Oh, with his parents. I never did finish reading that book, you guys. The Barefaced Messiah. I got to go back to it. To have healthy relationships with his parents, his 3 wives, or any of his children. That's a really great way for a narcissist to incorporate narcissism into his cult. But instead of taking any responsibility, that's a narcissist. You guys see any patterns? Trying to wink to you guys. For these failed relationships, he blamed his family members. Of course. Sound like Rinder? And a whole bunch of other people that we've listened to? Then he took it a step further. He created an entire cosmology. You guys think it was him alone? I don't. That would justify his inability to have successful personal relationships. Well, maybe we should ask his daughter, Diana. She's still stuck in it. Families are bad. Friendships are bad. Any close relationships are bad because he was incapable of having them. That's all the isolation. You guys, you know how they like separating the married couples and the family members. Read Jenna Miscavige's book, please. All he could conceive of was a world in which there is no love, no compassion. Sound like Diddy? Nothing but impersonal, cold-hearted relationships, like reptilians, based on statistics and the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. while making billions. What he said in the tape transcript sums it up. Families are not good groups, they're bad groups. Excuse me. I realize I risk incurring the wrath of dedicated Scientologists. Mind-controlled. By saying what I did in the above paragraph, but I think it's extremely important for Scientologists to realize that LRH does not have to have been perfect man for there to be any validity to the tech. I speak to people nearly every day who have had wins and gains from their auditing. They don't understand they can get that without the auditing. I never tell them their wins aren't valid. I never tell them their gains aren't real. I'm happy if someone has had wins and gains. The tech is not something I want for myself, but I don't think everyone else has to feel the same way I do. Like the independent Scientologists who are ex-Scientologists claiming they want to go up against Scientology. Ring-a-ding-a-ding. I have no doubt that many people have had wins and gains from the tech. But this does not mean that LRH was perfect. I discovered he wasn't perfect when I worked on the LRH biography research while I was still a Sea Org member in good standing. This discovery did not cause me to lose faith in the tech. All it did was to make me realize that even though LRH developed a technology that could help people, he was a real human being, a narcissist, just like the rest of us, with blind spots and character flaws, the same as everyone else. Like 7-year-old girls should be okay with being kissed on the mouth passionately. The problem was that one of his flaws was an utter inability to accept any criticism. That's a narcissist right there, 100%. And as a result of this, he tended to label anyone who did criticize him as an enemy. This flaw has now been institutionalized in the organization known as the Church of Scientology. Does this sound familiar to you guys, prestigious executives? But criticism is not a bad thing. It is a good thing. If the tech really works, and I know many people feel it does, then it can bear critical scrutiny. Just because someone criticizes something doesn't mean it isn't valid. It doesn't mean that person is an enemy. Scientologists must learn to differentiate between the parts of Scientology that are valid and those parts of which are not. LRH has a blind spot on the subject of personnel relationships, and the flaws in his own thinking have been inherited by the organization called the Church of Scientology. It is critical that Scientologists begin to see that they have the right to accept those parts of Scientology that work. Okay, you guys, I'm done with this. I'm going to leave the link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.